6 months after launch, we hit 20 million annualized revenue.
MashaAllah.
And that was at $0 in marketing. Product market fit per market or per country. So if something works really well in Saudi, doesn't mean it's going to work very well in the UK or Bahrain or...
What do you call it when you go from $1,000 MVP to $20 million in annual revenue in one market? Zero marketing spend. You call it CALO. And the founder is Ahmed El Rawi, a builder, operator, and one of the sharpest product minds in the region. In this episode, we unpack how Ahmed validated CALO with a smoke test MVP that made strangers ready to pay for food that didn't even exist yet, built a waitlist of 10,000 people, scaled across GCC cities, and found undeniable product market fit, and how he assembled world-class team and turned customer obsession into a cultural advantage. The original story of CALO, what exactly the problem that you were determined to solve?
I was a builder and an inventor. I loved building products, and one of those products turned into a business accidentally, and then I fell in love with building businesses and startups. And I was building things for fun. I wasn't really thinking about how big of a market or of a problem it was, whatever I was building. And then after a while, I realized that I'm building things that are taking a lot of time and effort, but only a few people appreciate them or use them regularly. So I decided to not build the next thing and take a break and take some time to think about and explore what is a big problem out there that is worth solving and what is a big market. Because I figured it takes about the same effort to build anything. So let's say you have 100 ideas. They all would take more or less the same effort. They all would take more or less 5 years to explore and figure out if they really could be big businesses. Or it could be like they take like obviously a few months to explore on an initial level, but then you need 5 years to build any business properly, to get it to like a mature stage, right? So if all of them take the same effort, but each one of them has a different outcome, I want to pick the one that has the highest outcome. So instead of jumping into building the next cool idea I have, let me spend some time thinking about which one of those is going to generate the biggest outcome. And eventually, after a year of exploring and trying different concepts and talking to different people and studying different markets, I found that the intersection between food and health was a gigantic problem that was not solved yet or was not being solved properly. And it was one of the problems I had faced myself. I didn't think there was a business idea there per se, but then after a while, after exploring different markets, I fell in love with that market. First of all, because I was a consumer and I was the ideal customer for it. I'm a busy professional who likes to eat delicious food that also doesn't give me an afternoon slump and make me want to sleep after. And I like for things to be personalized. And I've experienced the personalization of Netflix and Amazon and Spotify, but that personalization didn't apply on physical products. So I also got interested and excited about it as a builder, as an inventor. I'm like, oh, there's a lot to innovate in here. So first, long story short, the problem it was solving for me was I had a passion to build products, and I wanted to build something that was big. So the problem it solved for me was if it was that big problem that I can work on. And obviously the second thing was the personal problem of I want to eat good food, and I want it to be personalized to me, and that didn't exist out there.
But building startups in general is not very intuitive. In the sense is building startups, you need to validate, you need to do discovery, and then maybe you can build. And one of the most exciting story that I heard, that you were validate CALO with a $2,000 MVP, and you decided invite only launch.
Yeah.
Please tell me the full story.
Yeah, so it was actually $1,000, but then
oh God,
so it took me $1,000 to build the website to get the initial feedback, and the other $1,000 was to buy a domain name that I thought was cool.
And that's before the AI.
That's before AI. Yeah, this was 2019. I was again building a few different experimental startups at the time. And CALO was just another one. I didn't know if it was going to work or not. And I put together basically a quick document and some sketches on how a website should look like. And to me, the idea or the hypothesis I wanted to prove, I wanted to learn, are people interested in paying for personalized meal subscriptions? So I sketched and documented how a website would look like to test that hypothesis. And I designed an ad, a video ad. I had a friend help me put together a few videos and make an ad that shows someone receiving a meal and eating it, and then there was text saying, oh, if you want to receive personalized meal plans, whatever, sign up here. That was the initial MVP. And obviously, like testing an idea like CALO, where it was supposed to be vertically integrated, or regardless of how it was supposed to be, you're supposed to deliver food technically to people. And that's really hard. How was I supposed to deliver food? I didn't know how to cook well. I didn't know anything about kitchens. I've never been in a commercial kitchen. So I was thinking, how can I simplify it and make it the easiest possible to launch and test? And I realized I actually don't need to deliver the food. What I was testing was if someone sees an ad that promises them the service and shows them how it could look like, and goes and opens the website and is able to subscribe and to put their information and choose their meals from a menu, and then be asked to check out and pay a certain amount, would they do it? Because if they did it, then that proves that people have the problem and have the intent of solving that problem and paying for it with a specific price point. And then when they went all the way through the website, so you asked me how I did it. I recruited a freelancer. I was working with him on multiple projects, and I wrote down the documentation. I'm technical by background, so I know how engineers think and work. So I wrote down how it works and sketched it and sent it to him, and was working with him over a couple of weeks to build it. Basically, by the end of it, when you look at the menu and like decide you want to check out, and there's a button that says literally check out, and there's an amount, and there's also like it would ask you, do you want to pay by cash or credit card? Back in the day, cash on delivery was a big thing in the region still. And then so you choose which one you want to, which payment method you want, and then you press checkout, and then it would tell you, a new page would pop up. It would tell you, thank you very much. We'll let you know when we launch in your city. So it was a terrible experience because you are excited, you're checking it out, and then you're ready to pay, and then it tells you, actually, we're not launched yet. But that gave me the validation that people would go through the effort and would pay to get this service. That's all I needed to then go back and have to figure out, okay, now how can I make the food? Should I... And I tried actually to take this traction. So I ran the ads for, I forgot, a day and a half, like around maybe 30, 40 hours. I remember stopping it because it was doing really well, and I felt guilty because not only were people transacting and expecting to receive food and then they get disappointed at the last step, I also had a live chat button there where people were talking to me and I was responding, and some people were like, oh, this is amazing, I'm so excited, I'm gonna try it, I'm gonna tell all my friends about it. Oh, by the way, where do you cook the food, I'm curious. And I was just making up answers. So I felt guilty, but the goal was for me to understand, are people interested in this? Because if they were, then I'd go back and figure out how to make the food for them. So in the grand scheme of things, the first few customers maybe had a poor experience, but the idea was I'll fix it for them and I'll talk to them when I've actually started delivering the meals. So that's how I did it. I don't know if it's clear. You want to ask follow-ups?
Absolutely. No, technical term, we call this a smoke test. But basically, you create this website and you run ads like Facebook ads or Instagram ads.
Yeah, exactly. I ran Instagram ads. I ran Instagram ads in Bahrain, Saudi, and Dubai actually back then because I knew that this concept can work across different geographies, and I knew that the GCC market, ideally you should launch in all of the GCC countries. If you launch only in Bahrain, which is the easiest for me, it's a really small market and you can't scale in it. And I wanted to prove that like the Saudi customers interested and the UAE customers also interested. I forgot to mention earlier, I was saying that so when I got the results, I got about 40 people who signed up in those 30, 40 hours that the ad was live in. And they basically all agreed to buy a weekly package of about $100, I think. And so I took that revenue, like the virtual revenue figure, and I analyzed it, and I put together an investor deck, and I went and spoke to investors that I have dealt with in my previous startup, or just people who I got to know who told me they're interested in angel investing. And I told them, okay, I've proved the concept, now give me money so I can go build the kitchen. And I thought, I've done the work, I've proved the concept. To my surprise, they told me, Ahmed, we like you, we trust you, but what the hell do you know about kitchens and logistics and cooking food and whatnot? And that was fair feedback, fair criticism. I had thought if I can raise funding immediately then, I would be able to go and launch in Riyadh immediately in Saudi because it's a much bigger market. Because I couldn't raise funding at that point, I had to then go back to the drawing board and think, okay, how can I how can I go and cook the food and deliver it to customers? And I don't have enough capital to build a kitchen, or, I had some left in savings, but like I had a very short personal runway. I was consulting on the side to stay afloat, but I didn't have a lot of money to test with. And an idea popped up. I think someone told me that there's a kitchen that is renting kitchens or offering different services that just opened. So I went and spoke to them, and they gave me two options. They told me we could rent you a small kitchen where you could cook yourself, or we could cook for you and charge you a margin on top of the food cost. And I was like, please, you cook it. I want nothing to do with it. Even if I'm losing money on every meal, it doesn't matter. I'm still testing the concept. And if I can prove that people are buying and they're liking the food and they're coming back, then I can go and raise funding, and then I can go and build a kitchen or do whatever I need. Actually, if they were able to scale for me and continue to cook food for me, then that would have been fine. But, long story short, eventually the quality started dropping and I had to take it in-house. But I digress.
But again, this is very unintuitive. Again, I'm a product person and I work with a lot of product managers. And one of the few things that's really hard for me to teach is you need to spend some time in the problem statement and test ideas before you jump into building.
Yeah.
Most of them, they just jump into building, but you decide no to spend money and be at a loss, but you want to check if people actually buy it or not.
Yeah. It's not intuitive. And after learning my lesson, so my first 5 years of entrepreneurship were me choosing ideas that didn't have like major impact or didn't return maybe a lot of benefit. They were small problems that a small number of people had. I learned my lesson the hard way. I had a friend who also wanted to start a business, and then I challenged them to think like of what problem are they choosing. And the way I explained it was, imagine if you have $1 million to invest, and that's the only money you have, and you can only invest it in one place. How much time and effort would you put, or how much actually of the $1 million would you invest to find out what is the best opportunity to invest in? And the moment I put it that way, then they were like, oh, actually, I probably spend like 50,000, 100,000, so I can know where should the remainder of the investment go, because if I just put it in the first investment, it's probably not going to be the best one. Our lives work the same way. If you think of your value as potentially $100,000 or $200,000 a year of like, opportunity cost or salary or whatever it is that you could be making elsewhere, you're going to spend 5 years on this problem or on this business. How much time are you willing to invest before you choose the idea? So if you jump in and start working on the idea from the beginning, you're going to have a certain outcome. But what if you spent 6 months of the 5 years exploring which one of those 100 ideas is most suitable?
Ahmed, I love this analogy so much. So you ran it in 3 countries, Bahrain, Dubai, and Saudi. But usually with smoke, do you remember the conversion rate? Like, for example, is like 2%, 3%. Sorry, maybe I'm asking a stupid question. But the thing with the smoke test, we don't know if there's attraction or not. How did you decide that, no, there's a need for it? Just because you had 40 people?
Yeah, so if you think of it, the 40 people saw an ad for a brand they've never heard of. They opened a website and they filled in their details. They chose the menu items. They got to the last page and they saw the price and they chose the payment method, and then they pressed checkout. Like, to me, that was enough of an indicator that these guys are high intent. And if the food was actually going to be delivered, a lot of them, by the way, chose credit card payment, which tells me that they probably would have paid on the next page. Even if you assume a 50% conversion rate from the checkout button to the actual payment, there's still like 10 people who, in like a span of, by the way, like I spent probably between $100 and $200 on the ads, on the ad spend on Instagram. So it wasn't a lot of money. So if you even think of the return on ad spend, that was enough of an indicator that like this could work. And again, it was a super early indicator, but to me, I already had conviction because I'm a customer, I'm a potential user of the problem. Now, if I was building this inside of a company, I probably have more of a budget and more leeway, so I'd prolong the experiment for a bit. I'd increase the ad budget. I'd go and talk to those customers and ask them more questions. It depends on. I think also at that point I maybe didn't value my time as much. I think this is a very common sin that we don't value our time. So I was like, okay, this is enough. Let me jump in. And maybe I was also in the spirit or headspace of trying so many concepts and so many of them didn't work out that the moment I got some traction here, I was like, okay, I'm going all in.
Do you remember any early customer feedback that made you realize you're onto something big here?
At that point or later when we actually started? Yeah, later I think the signals were much stronger because when we started delivering the food, the first thing that happened was everyone who received, I invested in the packaging. The first thing that happened is everyone who received the package took a picture and put it on Instagram. So that was the first signal. That told me that people are proud of using this product for some reason. First of all, it says something nice about them. There's this nice blog post I read a while ago called Signaling as a Service. We buy things that help us signal. So when I post that I'm eating healthy, the first thing I'm signaling is I take care of my health. I invest in myself. The second thing I'm signaling when I'm posting nice packaging that looks like someone put effort into it, it would be that I can afford to buy nice things. And I choose to, again, invest in myself and buy nice things. So there's a bit of signaling, and that was an interesting indicator for me. The second thing was the feedback. People actually loved the food and they were saying very positive things about it. The third, which is the biggest indicator, and that's the moment of truth that I was waiting for, was the renewal. So how many of them were actually going to renew? The first 7 customers on day one of the actual launch, when I found this kitchen and they agreed to cook for me, the 7 people were me, my sister, and 5 friends. So I figured, like, they subscribed for a week and there was only like a weekly option available at that point. Then we introduced monthly. I figured, like, I wouldn't like be upset about them canceling after the first week. Like I would have understood. To my surprise, I think 3 or 4 of them have renewed. So that was an interesting indicator, and they were really excited to see the menu of the next week, and that added a lot of pressure for me because I had to I was figuring out the menu every single day. So I had to go and research more menu items. I had to go and talk to the chef to cook a sample for me to try it. And I was calculating the calories and macros for each person individually. There was no algorithm. I was the algorithm. So it was a lot of a lot of manual work in the background. But yeah, I think those 3 signals, mostly it was the renewal. The fact that actually there was a 4th one, which was when people posted about it. Like, I talked about the signals from the 7 people, but when those 7 people posted on Instagram about the experience, I had 200 people go to the website and sign up on the waiting list in the first couple of days. You asked me why an invitation-only approach. It was an invitation only for 2 reasons, and they weren't really I didn't think much of it. I've heard of different products doing this, and you know, I think the idea of something having a waiting list sounds cool.
Exclusivity.
Yeah, like if you go to a restaurant or you're walking around in the street and you see a restaurant and it has a line out the door, you're like, oh, this must be good. Mm-hmm. So the 2 reasons I did it was, 1, I had no idea what I was doing. And I didn't know if the food was going to be any good. I didn't know if the product was going to be good. I didn't know people were going to enjoy it. And I didn't know what capacity I would have had. It was very fragile. I was working with a kitchen with 1 chef and another cook. And they could have told me, you know what, never mind, we don't want to do this for you anymore. It was really scary. It was very raw. And the second thing was, it was because I heard that, people might feel a sense of FOMO, and they would actually want it even more. I didn't know if the second was going to happen. I just did it anyway. And what ended up happening was those people took a picture and people saw the product and the Instagram account, and they went and they saw, it's a soft launch coming soon, sign up on the waiting list type of caption. And they went on the website and put their email and said, I wanna know when this is live. And that was another signal that told me not only are the people who tried it happy and satisfied, but also there's a wide audience outside that is interested in it. 200 people for them to put in that effort is not small. Then again, I was in the headspace of launching things quickly, and if they work, I continue. If they don't, I shut them down. But then when I saw how well this worked, and we were about to launch a year later in Saudi, which is a big market, and we wanted to invest a lot in it, we leveled up the experience for waiting lists and invitation codes and so on. And that worked even better. And we ended up, I think, at some point having between 6,000 and 10,000 people on the waiting list at any given moment, which was ridiculous. For the first 6 months, we quadrupled the revenue that year, and I can mention it at this point. Like we basically we were at like from Bahrain the first year we were at like a $5 million annualized revenue.
MashaAllah.
And in Riyadh, 6 months after launch, we hit 20 million annualized revenue.
MashaAllah.
And that was at $0 in marketing. That was purely word of mouth, people referring each other, and so on. Now, it's not just the launch strategy that made it work. It's the fact that the product, the delta between the existing product on the market and CALO as the new product on the market was really high. Like we were so much better in terms of ease of use, experience, number of options, personalization than the next best thing. And I think whenever you launch, whether you have invitation only or you don't, if the product you're launching is so significantly better than the current best thing, word of mouth erupts like crazy. And you can think of like ChatGPT versus Google for looking up things or for learning about things, right? ChatGPT was significantly better. The delta between the experience of talking and having conversation versus just like typing a question, getting a list of results, it was so much better that the world decided to, you know, talk more about it and adopt it, and it became the new talk of town.
And there's a particular moment in time when you realized you achieved product market fit?
I don't think I've ever seen product market fit until CALO. Honestly,
that's a big statement. Okay.
Yeah.
How, is there any specific metrics, numbers, goals?
The way I understood product market fit before was it's when you have so much demand you can't supply it. It's when customers are flocking to your product or service or website or app or whatever it is without you even trying. It's when you have the right product that is hitting on the right problem for the right customer at the right price point. And then the moment customers discover this, let's say there's 100,000 of them and you can only serve 1,000, you're going to have 99,000 people out the door. You're going to have maybe 20,000 people, the ones that know about it. And then gradually more and more people would know about it. I think I knew we had product market fit within the first few months of launch. We had a private or closed launch for the first maybe 4 months of the like company, or the soft launch, let's say, company formation. But then when we opened to public, and that was around mid-Feb 2020, so just about when COVID hit, we started doubling every week for a few weeks. And that's when I felt like, I mean, honestly, it was not a great feeling because I was not sleeping. I was like in the kitchen packing meals. It was, you know, looking back in retrospect, I'm very grateful. Maybe I look at it now as a fun memory, but it was really, really tough to cope with the demand. And we didn't have a mechanism to be able to stop new customers from signing up. And we had to build that later because we were like, we can't deliver, just can't serve you. We're really sorry.
Exponential growth is really hard to imagine. But which market you were in when you figured out that you have product market fit? Is it in Bahrain or Dubai?
So Bahrain gave the initial indication that we had product market fit, okay. But when you have a small base in the grand scheme of things, and also like we heard narratives from the market, from different people who wanted to advise us, or just ourselves also, we were thinking about it, like we didn't want to take it for granted, because there was a scenario where we were the cool kids in town, things worked out really well, and then you'd have a big dip right after. So we were very cautious, and we didn't want to like, you know, celebrate or party. We wanted to like wait it out and see retention and see if this is going to continue or if it's just a hype thing. And also we wanted to see if this would work in a bigger market, because it worked well in Bahrain and the numbers were decent enough in Bahrain. They were much better than we had ever expected. But if it didn't work in bigger markets or in other markets, then it wouldn't be as big of an opportunity as we would have wanted it to be or would have thought it was. So I think the real signal was in Saudi, when we had thousands and thousands of people on the waiting list and we saw the retention rates. And by then we had 1.5 years data on Bahrain, and that was also doing well. Yeah, and I think the way I thought of it eventually was because we also had markets where we struggled to kind of get off the ground. The UAE actually was interesting because in the first 6 to 9 months, it was a really slow start. And then the moment it worked, it really worked. And we started like growing like crazy. And in Bahrain, it worked from day one. In Saudi, it worked from day one. And in Dubai, it took 6 to 9 months to kick off. Maybe we like also the nature of Bahrain and Saudi is slightly different when it comes to like everyone knows everyone. The like everyone's like 1 or 2 degrees separation from everyone, and like it's very much a local. It's like a society based mostly off locals, versus Dubai, where like you have majority are expats. And you don't have that, you don't have like the cousins and the relatives and the like distant relatives. So the word spreads in a different way. It doesn't spread the same way as it does in Saudi and in Bahrain. I think the concept evolved for me eventually into product market fit per market or per country. So if something works really well in Saudi, doesn't mean it's going to work very well in the UK or Bahrain or any other market. Sometimes also, like we started thinking, why does this concept work really well in these cities or these markets? We've heard of like people who tried to launch similar concepts in certain European cities, and they couldn't make them work while they had an operation that was working well in other cities, and other places around the world. There are elements of convenience, there are elements of lifestyle, there are so many factors that contribute to, is this a big problem? For example, if you're in some city in, let's say, Spain, and you have amazing restaurants just downstairs, and they're affordable and you like them, then the premise of a meal subscription or even food delivery is not as exciting for you. Like, it's not really solving a big problem. But if you're living in a really busy city and you'd need like half an hour to go get a decent food option that you would like, then food delivery or meal subscription would be very like meaningful to you. It would solve a big problem for you. So there are even these little factors that would make product market fit of a certain city or country not the same as another.
How did you decide to scale to another market? Do you wait to find a product market fit in one market first, or do you wait for any specific unique economic first? You want to make sure that you have a healthy business, then you jump another market, or how do you think about it?
I'll tell you the quick timeline, and this should answer you, and I'll tell you the answer in detail. Year 1, we were in Bahrain. We launched in November 2019, and basically 2020 was our first full year. Year 2, 2021, we launched in Riyadh, which was our first city after Bahrain. And then year 3, we launched in the UAE, in Kuwait, and in Eastern Province in Saudi, and Western Province also in Saudi. So we went gung-ho on expansion. We went crazy. And there was maybe the logic of, let's wait and see how these markets do. But that's not what we were being led by, or that wasn't what was moving us or making us make the decisions. It was the opportunity and the excitement for the opportunity, and honestly the fear of what if we lose out on gaining those markets, because now we've proved the concept, now someone can see it and copy it. So we were really scared about that at the beginning, just like any other like founder would be. Whenever you figure something out, you're like, oh well, what if I have all competition now? And sometimes that's a real concern. But over time, we realized that what we're doing is actually really, really, really hard. And a lot of people have tried, like probably hundreds of brands have popped up since we launched. And, some are doing better than others, but at the end of the day, like it's a really hard business to be in. And to scale to the level that we're at. Anyway, so what I'm saying is competition became less of a fear, but to answer your question, we were like deciding based on maybe fear of competition and wanting to like capture market share as fast as possible.
I mean, to be very honest with you, I know a few friends that look at this market, it's like, yeah, it's easy, just packing foods.
Yeah.
And they did not survive 1 year. It's so operational heavy. What are the toughest operation challenges that you encountered in the first few years?
This is going to require its own podcast. So to give my co-founder Mayed credit, he was handling the operation. yeah, it was really tough. Like obviously both of us had to like roll our sleeves and figure it out at different parts, but like he was owning the operation for the most part. Opening is very difficult, but then scaling is even more difficult. And maybe when we started working with each other, we made it clear that my role was to generate the demand and his role was to supply the demand, which I still think is a great way to separate tasks, honestly. So I was mostly thinking about how to make the operation more complex. I wasn't really thinking about it from that angle. I don't want to make it more complex, but I was thinking what is best for the customer. And what is best for the customer is more personalization, more variety, and so on. And those things required more operational complexity. So I think maybe one of the like toughest periods was when the operation was scaling so fast that it was really, really hard to keep up with the demand, where we were recruiting like sometimes 100+ people per month to like, in the operation, whether it's like in logistics or in packing or in cooking in different parts of the operation. While at the same time, I was looking at all the opportunities or even the issues of the product at the time of like, oh, we need to do this, we need to change this, we need to do that, we need to elevate quality here, we need to increase personalization there. And that caused a lot of clash, obviously, between me and Muayyad, but also different types of teams. Yeah,
healthy friction. So this is because CALO is known to have customer focus on the customer and clear customer obsession. So this is where you have to be the voice on the customer.
Yeah. I think it's very important for someone in the startup and ideally a founder or co-founder to be the voice of the customer, because it's really easy for that to be forgotten. Like I've been in rooms where I try to sit back in the background and I don't hear anyone talking about the customer. And I'm like, you realize they're paying our salaries, right? So yeah, I think the customer makes the business, but it's so easy to forget that the customer exists because the customer is not in the meeting rooms. They're not on Slack. They're not on email.
It's very interesting about CALO, your executive team. All of them are top talent. And your chief of staff, John, by the way, he used to be my boss. Hi, John.
No way.
So how did you convince those people to come and work for you? To be very frank with you, how did you sell CALO to them? And how do you work with those exceptional talent?
Yeah. I'm glad you brought this up because CALO's success today, I probably take very little credit for compared to what the team collectively takes credit for or should take credit for. And speaking of credit, and to also be fair, one of our very early leadership team members, Mahmoud Ziad, joined as our head of people and culture. And he insisted from the beginning on doing people and culture differently, starting by calling it people and culture and not HR. In 2020, this wasn't particularly very popular or common. And he invested in like employer branding and things like that. And like I remember he actually sat us down in a room and was like, what is our mission? Like we knew what our mission was, but we didn't vocalize it. We didn't actually have it in a sentence. And he was like, what is our mission? What are our values? So that was really helpful at the beginning. And also from my previous experience, I was very intentional about culture because I've seen, what a good culture could look like, what a mediocre culture looks like, what a bad culture could look like. Maybe not all through my own company's experiences, but just by hearing from different companies and different founders and so on. So first, I think it was setting a strong foundation. And like, I think good leadership is about doing what you say you're going to do and acting by example. Words are cheap, execution and action is what matters. And I think when you build that strong foundation, and obviously you need to build it through action, so the early team needs to see that the leaders of the business are behaving and operating the way they're asking everyone else to behave and operate. I think that gets you the initial foundation. And then with time, as you prove the concept, as you prove product market fit, as you go and like raise some funding so that like someone who's maybe married with kids doesn't like think that you're going to shut down the next day. Like all these things matter. Like I think building a strong business gives the comfort to people who like are building a career, that if they move to your business, not only is it exciting and they look at the upside, potential upside, but also the potential downside is more limited because the concept is proven, there's good financials, there's an investment in the company. So all of these things are the hygiene points basically of how to build a good team. I can talk about this for a while, but I know we're short on time, so I'm not gonna go in deep details. I think you've heard me speak about this, and I'll repeat it in case someone hasn't. But business is sport. I believe business is a sport. It's a mental sport, and it's a team sport. It's not an individual sport. And I didn't know this very well maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago. And if you think of it, if it's a team sport, then you want to have the best team members on the team. And then you should ask, well, what do the best team members want? Like, why would they join? Well, the best team members want to play with or work with the best players. So, are you one of the best players? Have you proven that you're hardworking, you have a track record, and does the early team also have that? And then the best players also want to work on something big. They want to work on something tough. They like the growth. They like the challenge. And so therefore, do you have a big vision? Do you have a lot of opportunities and challenges ahead of you that are exciting to solve? Is the mission exciting? The best players also want to work on something meaningful. Is the mission exciting? Is it actually making the world a better place? All these little things, as cliche as they sound, they matter. So again, like maybe number one is get the hygiene right. Number two would be make sure that also. I think number two is understand the game of business and how it works. And that way you empathize with those players. And number three would be to be intentional about it and to spend a ton of time doing it. There's no working around this. There's no recruiter you can hire that would solve your people problems, or no head of people and culture that you could hire that could solve all your people problems. You need to be intentional as a founder or as a leader or as a manager even. You need to be intentional about bringing the best talent on board. For the past 18 months, recruitment has probably taken half of my time.
Oh, wow.
I've been on like thousands of interviews in the past few years, like no joke. And up until a year ago, I think less than a year ago, I would join every single culture fit interview, no matter what the position was. So for every team member that joins us, and this is again investing in culture, we wanted to make sure that people we recruit are culture fits. So the last step of any recruitment process is a culture fit interview that is done by people who are not the decision makers on the technical skill set of the individual. And we'd answer a bunch of questions to get to know their values, how they think, how they behave, and so on. Yeah, I've attended a bunch of these interviews. I would invest a ton of time meeting people, even if we're not recruiting, but I hear that there's someone smart and capable. I'd go and meet them, and then we just keep in touch. And after a while, also another thing we did was we started writing unconventional job descriptions. And like job descriptions are really boring. So when you read them, like they're just like, they all sound the same pretty much. Oh, we want someone who's hardworking, has experience, blah, blah, blah. We started writing unconventional job descriptions. We still don't do it across the company, but we're intending to. And those basically really tell you what the job is about and really tell you context that you should know. Like, what's the company? Where's the company at? Why are we hiring for this role? Who are you going to work with? Telling it in a storytelling format instead of just a technical job description. All of these things have helped us recruit the best talent. And when one good person or good talent comes, they bring other good talent with them.
Ahmed, again, I'm gonna save my rest of the question for part two. We definitely need to have part two. But where can our audience be helpful for you when they can go learn more about you and try CALO?
I am on Instagram. I think Instagram and TikTok.
I'll include it in the show notes.
Yeah, amazing. I've been somewhat active there. It's Ahmed El Rawi would be my handle. And I'm also on LinkedIn. I haven't been posting as much there, but I do that. And I also have my blog, which is rawi.co, rawi.co. I would write free flow things there. Okay, and great. CALO, I think CALO.com, CALO.app. We bought CALO.com. That's a story for another day. I love 4-letter domains. Anyway, so also on Instagram and App Store.
Great. Thank you so much, Ahmed. Get you have on board.
Thank you, Mahmoud.